If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.
Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, I want to start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, the way that we see life, and hopefully helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why I can unapologetically say that and he can unapologetically say that is because we know you are one of one. Numero uno. You cannot be replicated, duplicated. And the only reason you would think that you're not perfect, if you're looking at this person to the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you, and that's all you need. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. And I have my boy JClay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And we're about to jump on here and talk to y'all and give you a guide to changing the past. A guide to changing the past. What up, Jay?
What up? Happy day to all my perfect people, perfect land, doing perfect things. You may have noticed we got an upgrade in our audio quality, which is beautiful. So if you hear anything, though, let us know, because we would love to know that feedback. And with that, all of our shows are in open forum, so we encourage you to share your wisdom, because it'll help so many people. And we'll actually share it with everyone as well. But I have a couple of announcements I want to make, because we forgot to make this last week. Every week, every Monday of this year, we'll be fasting. It's a water fast. You can do the entire day of Monday, or you can do 24 hours. So 24 hours from when you last ate today on Sundays. We'll be doing that. But also, because y'all know we used to do the 8th, 9th, and 10th of every month, we're still doing that too. So in this week, yeah, it's
Couple days, baby.
It's going down. But go ahead.
It's a couple days. So I just kind of add to that. So number one, fast tomorrow, like he said, and then 8th, 9th, and 10th fast again. But just to kind of elaborate on your perfection and the reason why we want people to join in on the conversation. Because again, as I said, the only reason that you think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at the person to the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But you have to understand who you are matters, and everything that you have to say matters as well. And so you giving us a little bit of your perfection by joining in the conversation means everything, because that's how we expand ourselves. Doesn't mean we change ourselves, but we expand ourselves. But yeah, I just want to throw that in there. And I will also tell you, my brother, that switching it up today feels funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know nothing but good comes from that in the end of the day. So a guide to changing the past. What does this mean?
Man, okay. So, people are always talking about like time travel. Man, if I can go back, I do this, I can do that. But okay, even before going from that perspective, the only thing that stops people from being as great as they can be is their illusion or their idea of the past. And people, and I guess an example of that is, I can't do that because nobody ever did that before, or
Yeah,
I wasn't raised that way. I can't be like that. I can't do that. And people will use that as the basis of their future. So in a way, like, again, people like to say know the past know your history because it'll repeat itself. But no, because you know your history, it is destined to repeat itself, because you're saying, because this happened, this is all that will ever happen for the rest of time. And life doesn't work like that. Like, life is unpredictable. It's exciting. It's creation. And creating is not recreating. It's called creation for a reason.
And so I'll tell you where my first mind went with it too. And again, in everything that you said, I'm in agreement with. You know what I mean? we tend to do things because so first of all, let me back up. The first thing that came to my mind was whenever I'm in a group setting with my friends, as an example, right? And we're telling stories, which we generally do, like back when I was in high school, back when I was a kid, this is what happened. And one thing that was always a common thing for me was whenever somebody would be telling a story, I didn't remember it the way that they were telling it. I had my own little piece, or vice versa, where I would be telling the story, they wouldn't remember it, or they would have thought of something that I didn't think of. And so what that made me think about is the way that we perceive our past is not always what it was. Also, that's number one. But not only that, I thought about in my own life, the way that I perceive things that have happened to me, that have happened to people as well. So when I was growing up, I didn't grow up with my dad, right? And, I know a lot of people that have grown up in a similar situation. They say, well, this is the reason why I am the way that I am because my dad wasn't there, or I wasn't able to do these type of things because my dad wasn't there. But I have always taken the frame of mind that because my dad was not there, this is the reason why I'm able to excel. Like, he gave me something that instead of taking something away from me, he gave me something that a dad being there couldn't give me. And then I think that kind of has formed the way that I've moved in a lot of instances in my life. And so, when I think about again, the first thought of changing my past, I thought about how I could have actually perceived things that happened and what I deemed them to be. But go ahead, Jay.
Man, I love that you brought that up because it goes to what you said at the beginning, like comparing yourself to other people. It can cause discomfort. An example would be because let's say someone is in a single parent household and something goes wrong. Like something is not, you don't feel supported because of the comparison of other families with two parents. You might say, man, if this parent was here, my life wouldn't be like this, if this or that. But in some instances, you have nothing to compare it to because your journey is your own journey, period. Whether you have two, whether you have one, whether you sometimes have one, sometimes regardless, your journey is your journey. And it's an opportunity to see things from a new perspective, which you did. Like, you saw what you actually got out of the situation. And who knows, like you might not be on this podcast today had things be different. So much of your life might not be as it is. And I know that you love your life as it is now.
Yeah. And two, just to add another layer to it. And again, I'm just using myself as an example so that way we can piece this all out and I guess discuss it in different aspects. But it's also the perception that other people can have because of their past and what they tried to lay onto you. And just kind of again give you an example. There was this time where my uncle, shouts out to my uncle, love my uncle. He is definitely one of the reasons I am the person that I am today, Jerome. And he was actually in jail. And my granddad wanted me to, drive him down to go see him. It was a distance that we had to go to get there. And so, we're on this trip and we're driving, right? And my granddad just kind of, he leans over and looks at me and is like, okay, Troy, so when are you going to go to jail? And so I looked at him like, what you talking about? When am I going to go to jail? You know what I mean? And he was like, well, all of them go to jail. You going to go to jail too. And so in my mind, now again, me thinking about where this is coming from him, he has a history in his own mind of the people that are close to him or the kids of the kids potentially going to jail because of actions that people have taken because we all grew up in the same household or in the same environment for a lot of the time. And so the pattern for him is this, but because that's his history. And again, everybody didn't even go to jail for the same reasons, right? Somebody might have went to jail because they got pulled over and they had speeding ticket, you know what I mean? But in his mind, his past has dictated that it looks completely different. And so, he approached me that way, but my response to him, because I have a long ride to my granddad, I don't want to be fighting with him on the way to where we're going. Like, look, I don't know what you've experienced or what you've gone through, but not everybody does go to jail, and I won't be that. But again, I said that to say that people can project past actions onto you as well, and you can either accept it or change the dynamic of the situation. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and what's true too is like he didn't do that in a malicious way. Like, that's just
He didn't.
right. That's just how he saw life based on the circumstances and how he took it in at the particular time. And so a lot of times when people say things to us that could be off-putting, it's not intentional. It's just it's their current belief system, which doesn't have to stay the same. And because we have these examples, like because he had you, he saw that, oh, things could be different. It is another way to look at things. Like I'm sure we all had times where we lived a certain way or we thought a certain way about a person, and then we hear new information, and it makes us see everything, our idea of them change completely. It's like we went into the past and changed something, and then it's been recalibrated, and now we see them through the eyes of this new information. And all that was, though, was a thought. All that was a single thought that changed history. But go ahead.
No. I love that because that's one of the things that I kind of hold on to myself. And what I mean is, I've always, I guess, noticed or realized that when I meet somebody for the first time after so long, they look like, when I say they look like physically look completely different to me, because number one, when you walk into meeting somebody, you don't really have a history to lean on to dictate who they are, right? And so you create this somewhat of a fake history for yourself, like, oh, this is this type of person, or this is what this type of person is. And then once you actually get to know them, meaning the present, like how they are, then those fake historical, factors that you've tried to bring to them start to disappear. And I've literally looked at people and I've tried to go back and, and I'm not talking about, like when you look at somebody from the 80s and the 90s, I'm talking about within a short span of time, like a month, and you can really see a complete transformation because now you have some present time to say, okay, well, this is who this person is. And it's always been amazing to me. Even with my wife, like when I first met her, that's one of the ones that always sticks out in my mind. Like, I know she looked completely different to me, and I always liked her, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like after, I had hung around her for a little bit, I was just like, wow, okay, cool. It's a trip. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, it's true. Everybody looks different. Everything looks different with each new story you tell about it. And that's the key, like the story you tell. And if we know this, like we've all experienced it, nobody is exempt from this new information coming into play, or what you said, like how you meet somebody is not how they look even a week later. Like once you spend some time with them, we can just start telling ourselves a new story. We can stop perpetuating the same story. For example, I found myself in the conversation last week. Oh, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I want you to go ahead with it.
Well, I found myself in the conversation last week, and I said the words, "Yeah, I've always been this type of person." And as I was saying it, I was like, "Man, I'm furthering this narrative where it's a good thing that me saying this serves me. Like this is a positive story that I'm sharing. But what if it wasn't? I'm sure I've said that in many ways for a not so positive thing that I just perpetuated over and over to anyone that would listen."
So, man, I was going to say something different, but I'm going to say something else too, because of what you said, shouts out to somebody that I know listen to the show. I hope you listen today because, of course, I never meant for the conversation to go this way, but just because we are here, I gotta broach the conversation. But I was literally talking to a friend of mine, and, they were talking to me about their mentor. And their mentor, and this was also a part of a perception that they had for themselves, right? So they had deemed them, they looked and they was like, okay, this is where I kind of had a hurdle that I haven't been able to get past. And these people, the mentor and the life said, well, it sounds like you're a professional at planning, but not a professional at executing, right? And the person that I'm talking about was like, aha, man, that is right. I am this thing, but not that. And in that moment, I can just imagine, and I don't know this to be true, but I could imagine them going through their mind and changing the past themselves, meaning like evacuating any thought that they had of themselves being an executor and saying that I've only ever planned things in my life, right? And I explained to this person, I get what the mentor was saying, but I want you to understand the real of it all. You could not have not been anything because you are here today. And I said, just using real estate as an example, if you were not somebody that executed anything, how did you ever become a realtor? You know, you had to have the skill set or the mentality to do it, but somewhere along the line, you just didn't deem the things that you were doing worthy of executing, or you might have had a lack of belief in executing those things. And you know, I bring this person up because I want us to all, I guess, understand, even in this standpoint, like how when you start to look at things, we do it anyway. We're about to talk about changing things in a way that's beneficial to you, but I want us to recognize that we always change things in a way that's not necessarily beneficial to us to suit a situation instead of just changing it. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. First, let me read what Angela said before I respond
Shouts
to
out.
you.
Shouts out.
Ultimately, the mind attaches to stories we tend to tell ourselves to validate / affirm our experiences. For example, stories can be used to justify a victim mindset before we awaken to the fact that there are no victims, or the way stories keep one bound in a comfort zone. But at the end of the day, all is chosen consciously or unconsciously. Each now moment, regardless of if you've attached to a story or not. Yes, so true. And it's similar to what I wanted to say to you, Troy, about the story you just shared. So I'm glad you responded to your friend that way, because it shows a lot about you. And what I mean is, everything is that mirror. So we only share based on the limitations we think we have of ourselves. And you recognize that no person has a limitation. So you're not going to let someone in your inner circle have a limitation either, because in some ways it says a lot about you. It doesn't, but it does in a way. And so you seeing others as unlimited, you reminding them so that they can in turn remind you as well, and not fall victim to that mentality of I'm not good enough. Things are too hard. You have to be this type of person in order to succeed. And you ran down the list of you did this, you achieved this, you succeeded at this, and we can all again tell ourselves that story over and over again until we actually believe it.
Yeah, and say again, that's the beauty of it. And even if we go back to the example that we gave of my grandfather, like the people that are saying these things to us in their mind and the history of what they've experienced are actually trying to be helpful. They don't have, like, even the people that were giving the feedback to her, I don't think that they were trying to limit this person. They were trying to free them to let them know that your behavior should change in this instant, so that way you can achieve whatever success you're trying to get to. But the communication part is the part that can be damaging to the way that we think about it. And you know, when I heard this person say that I'm not an executor, that's the thing that stuck out to me, period. Right. And so again, even for myself, I would say damned myself by words before as well. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about, you know, changing the past. Like, how are you really defining this? How are you really looking at if there was really a true limitation, or did you really understand what you were really going through? For you, did you really step back and try to take a holistic look at what you were going through, so that way you can really peel from it what you were supposed to peel from it? And you know, I think that's just kind of a big part of when we talk about or get into how to change this, because we are beat down by our own thoughts, the thoughts that we give ourselves, or I guess the thoughts that are up in the forefront anyway. And you know how we go about. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and with what we share, like
Yeah.
sharing, we share what we only share our essence. So anything we have, we're saying in every conversation we're creating, we're sharing who we think we are. So I'll give an example where you can change the history of others too, in a sense, by being rooted in the now. So I had a friend who was telling me that the things that she was going to manifest for the day. She was like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna do this." And she was telling me, she was like, she came later and said, "This happened and this happened, but this other thing hasn't happened yet, but it's still more day left." So I think like maybe a couple of days later, I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if she manifested that third thing. Now I could go ask, but let's say I ask and she didn't. we both created a scenario where we know that, oh, you can't manifest, or something like that. I know that's not reality, but that's just what the mind can think. So I said, you know what? Instead of asking her, I'm just gonna assume that she did it. And then later that day, she came and said, "Hey, I didn't manifest that that day, but the next day it happened." And I just thought that was cool. And not to say that it wouldn't have happened had I not said what I said and thought what I thought, but it's a way for you, like be mindful of what you're putting out to people if you're perpetuating a certain narrative that doesn't serve either of you.
The cool part, like that's the one thing that I love about when I get to work with my kids on sports, right? Because a lot of the stuff that we're able to accomplish together, and I'm gonna say we, because you're right. I make some things real that historically they could have looked at from other people that may not have been able to do, right? And I'm just gonna use shooting as the example, right? Like my son has never made, at some point he had never made 20 shots in a row, right? It just had never happened. But I continuously told him that he can do it. I continuously told, like, regardless of what he believed, regardless of how many times he hit the rim and it didn't go in, I kept telling him, like, you just didn't make that one. Like, just shoot the next one. Just shoot the next one. And, the day when he actually shot, he made 28 in a row. I wasn't even able to record it because you just never know when that moment is going to come, right? But I think that as he was shooting, he kept remembering that I told him that it was possible. And he kept remembering that I told him he hit the last shot. So just hit the next shot, and I think that that's a way that, to your point, that you can create something even when, he don't know any other 12-year-olds that have done it. You know what I mean? He don't know any of them. He hasn't seen it on any film or anything anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But it was able to be real because I created a world where that could be something that he could achieve. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shout out to TJ. And so what's funny about you telling that story, there was something inside of me that wanted to say, I never hit 20 shots in a row. But again, how does that serve me if I want to one day shoot 20 shots in a row? Like I shouldn't even focus on what I have or haven't done. But like you said, that it is possible, that it can be done. And oftentimes when others share, we have the inkling to limit ourselves just by throwing ourselves into that story.
Yeah, so look, bro, like I'm gonna talk about myself real quick, right? And again, I know I'm a work in progress in all things that we always talk about. But that's the beauty for me of writing things down, like, because sometimes I might have that thought that you just said, like I never had, or I never, but the beautiful thing for me in writing stuff down, regardless if I ever have or if I ever will, I somewhere in my inside of me start to feel like, well, regardless, it's possible because I wrote it. You know what I mean? And I don't always actively go after the things that I've written down, but I literally, it's like something that's in my subconscious mind that continuously is working on itself. And I in real estate, I never knew how far I could come. I never knew. And there were times where I literally did think that even the stuff that's happening for me in this moment were impossible, right? I ain't no way that could ever happen for me, right? But me writing these things down and I'm saying this as part of our guide, you know what I mean? But me writing these things down were somewhat combative to my thoughts, right? Because there's no way that I'm gonna write something down that I don't believe that could potentially happen, even though I might be verbalizing it in any moment, right? Yeah. And me becoming a broker in 5 years, I never knew anybody that did it. I tried to ask people, but I literally just did it because I didn't give myself that limitation. But go ahead, Jay.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, you could have kept searching and kept searching instead of just moving forward with it. Like you said, you don't know if it can be done or not, but you won't know unless you pursue it. And a lot of times we'll seek validation first instead of just moving forward with things. So in the spirit of changing history, right? Whenever, I know you've heard me say this before, like whenever something ails a person, like a physical pain or something, I stop them from telling me why it happened. Because that creates the reason, and when that reason isn't fulfilled, or you think that that's a real moment in time, the effects are allowed to persist. But if you make yourself forget the cause, like cause and effect are one, and an effect can't live without its cause, then sooner or later, like that pain will just dissipate like it's a dream. Like you will forget, like, oh yeah, I remember last week this was hurting, and it's no longer hurting, but it's because you didn't focus so much on that cause that happened in the past some time ago.
So, before I know we're going to transition into, the actual guide, again, identifying and things of that nature. But before we do, I want you to say the quote that you always say. You say it all the time, watch your thoughts before they become your, because I think that's important here. I think that's really important to what we, are going to discuss.
Yeah, watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. Watch your habits for they become your character. Watch your character for it becomes your destiny. And it influences your beliefs that restarts that whole process in an endless circle.
And it influences all the people around you, because, we are definitely stewards to the people that are around us in some way, form, or fashion, especially when it comes to the mental capacity and what people can believe. So,
Wait, but before you
go
go,
ahead.
I wanted to say this one thing that's relevant that I just learned like a few hours before this. So have you ever heard of an ant death spiral?
Ants, like an ant, like a bud ant insect.
Yeah. The death spiral. So basically, I guess how they move, they follow a leader in a sense, and sometimes that leader might need to turn around in order to find a new place because there was an obstacle. Well, what ends up happening is because they're in that flow and they follow pheromones or whatever they follow, that scent is strong, and so as they turn around and go in the path, they might lose track of the leader, and then they end up going in a circle just following the others and others, and they get so tired that they'll just die. So it's called a death spiral. And right, and so you think about that, like you caught in this cycle of following others because you think that they're going somewhere, but they're just following what you're following, and then you die. And like when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's crazy. But go ahead.
No. So to that point, I'm gonna come back and tell you that we're all perfect. You are perfect. And the only reason that you would think that you're not is if you're looking at the person next to you and saying that you're not. And I just love that there's an opportunity at any given time to express individuality, to show who you are, to escape from the path and say, guess what? I'm going to be a leader. Because at the end of the day, regardless if we want to or not, no matter how much we talk about it on this show, there is always going to be a path that people are going to follow. There's always going to be somebody following you, and you have to be strong enough to stand within you and know that what you bring to this, the creations that you bring to this earth are worthy of being followed. Because I hate to say these type of things, but I just got to be 100% honest. People are going to follow, right? We would like everybody to be individuals that create and way we can become a better society, but you be the person to be you first. But just come back to, go ahead, Jay.
I don't know if you remember, like our last meeting on Monday, we were talking about perfect mode and things we can do better. And I literally said, let me look up what other podcasters did. And then he was like, yeah, cool. And then I caught myself like, no, let's just come up with something creatively and just see. And like so easy to what you said, we are willing to follow others. And then not to say that there's something wrong with following, but there could be something wrong. Like especially if you're being led within to do something on your own to create anew. So yeah.
So I'm gonna piggyback on that too, right? This is just my belief. I don't know this, but I think that we're all led within to create anew. We just don't have the faith that the new, like there's always outside forces that are dictating our actions, right? That if I do this way, it won't be received, or if I stray from the path, I'll be shunned, right? And the reality of it is you see that happen to people only because the things that they are doing are new. And people take time to warm up to things, right? That path that the ants take is already warm. That's the reason why they can smell where it's going. But like when you take a new path, people are like, okay, well, I don't know if that pathway is strong enough to carry everybody. Like, but once enough people walk across it, then the path starts to become what the path is. So I just encourage everybody to understand that I don't want to say it's supposed to be anything. It's going to look different than what you're doing.
Yeah.
People, it's going to be new to people because they've never seen it before. But the beautiful thing for me is, and that's one thing I love about social media, I always see stuff that I never seen before, and I never just act like it's not something that's worth watching. I just never do. Like, it's some stuff I want to watch, and some stuff that's repetitive, I tend to sometimes just go past it because I've already seen it. I'm always looking for something new that's going to make me feel the love and the joy or the excitement or the awe. I always wanted new. Now, again, I get trapped in the loop of same sometime as well. But the reason why I scroll is because I'm looking for something that I've never seen before. And so the reality, go ahead, Jay.
You just helped me think about something. So, like, we're all like that. We love a new. Like, I mean, it can be similar to something, but we still want it in a new way. It's just something about that newness that's just refreshing, and it takes your mind to a new places of new possibilities. And I say this to say that sometimes people don't love themselves.
True that.
The
Man.
reason might be because they're doing the same thing every day. They're eating the same foods. They're saying the same words. They're thinking the same thoughts. They're doing the same actions. And you get tired of yourself. You're like, this again. let me put my faith and belief in something outside of me because I no longer believe in me. And in being in that state of creation, you get to fall in love with yourself over and over again because you're like, wow, I didn't know this was possible. I didn't know I could create this. I didn't know I had this to be able to be flowing through me. And yeah, like that creation, that going within, that creating anew is powerful.
And just kind of piggyback, off of what you're saying, I would even go as far as to say that it's not you. Like, again, when you're following the path in the pattern, like, it's not you. Like, you're going to get tired of it. It's the reason why you feel the way that you feel. Like, I've never been around somebody, again, that did something new that wasn't exhilarated. Now, it might have been exhilarated on a high end of excitement, or it might have been exhilarated on a low end of like, I'm never doing that again. But the one thing that I know that always came from that is that there's always a story. Like, man, I remember this time when I went and jumped off this cliff. I ain't never doing that no more. It was the craziest thing. Like, you can see that they're exhilarated even in saying that I'm never going to do it again. But them doing that thing that was new to them was everything, because it's the thing that they're never going to forget. I always like to talk about the things that we remember the most in our life are the highlights that we've deemed to be a highlight. It's something that we'll never forget. And that's whether it's good per our definition or bad. Like, we just don't forget those things. So, like, you're going to get tired when you're not being you. Your inside is always yearning for the new. It's never for the path. Like, the path is the easy, I don't want to be me scenario. Honestly, that's just how I see it. But go ahead, Jay.
I want to read this quote from Andona. It's exhausting being inauthentic. Man, I love that quote because it is.
Me too, man.
Like, it's like, and that's how it is. Like, in times where you're not your own biggest fan, it's because you're in this repetitive state of just stuff that is not for you. It's like you're looking at yourself like, what am I doing? Why am I still going here? Why am I still repeating these actions when I know that even if it doesn't work out, it's got to be better than this. Like, it's got to be better than this. And once you do allow yourself to experience that, it's so refreshing. It's so easy. It's never going to work out the way you thought it was, but it's so much more rewarding than you could have ever imagined.
So, to your point, I want everybody just to kind of think for a second. And I want you to imagine a time in your past when you were the most happy, when you had like the most joyous moment that you could think of. And I want you to think about how many times even you tried to recreate that moment. Just I'm doing this again because of this. Now, it could have been, I want to say, you could have been an ant. And the reason why you became the ant was because the person that was leading you was going to a place that you had never been before. And to me, that's when being the follower is not necessarily the bad thing, because I think that sometimes we have to see things from that. That's the reason why we want people to be involved in our conversation, because y'all can bring us to somewhere we've never been before. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to follow you in your pathway or try to do it like you, but I want the experience. I want to see, what did you create? And if I create that same thing in my life, how do I respond to that? So when I think about those moments, I may have been an ant following somebody and I experienced something new. And then when I tried to recreate that moment, it didn't feel the same. And then when I tried to recreate it again, it didn't feel the same. But guess what? I wasn't tripping on doing it because I can only remember the past and how it made me feel, right? And I challenge people to think about those moments and think about how you end up becoming an ant in that instant, how you end up in that spiral of death. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love that. Similar to being an ant, like changing your past is changing your path. Like you're refusing to be a part of that same repetitive narrative that you've told yourself or that somebody else told you, that you've accepted as truth in reality. Again, like we are only limited by our definitions, period, of things, of ourselves, of everything. And the key to changing our path is to recognize us in this moment. Like right now, everybody's well. If you're watching this, you're perfectly fine. You're at peace. All is well. And the only thing that can take you out of that state is some thought that you've attached some untrue emotion to, thinking that thought persists throughout all time and space. Like when we really recognize that everything is quick and fleeting, like there's no point in holding on to it. We can easily let that bad thought go, and not bad, but just one that doesn't serve us, and in favor of one that does.
So now that I've given everybody a chance to think about that moment, and I agree with you, Jay, the key here is changing how we define that moment. And everybody should have had a chance to just kind of think of a moment where you felt that way, right? And how happy you was and how you tried to recreate it. But I challenge everybody to change the thought of that moment and say that I felt that way just because it was new. Just because it was new, right? And so when you talk about changing your past, if you can think of all those great moments or exhilarating in what you've defined as a bad moment, saying, I only felt that way just because it was new, I think that gives you the opportunity to start saying, okay, well, guess what? Now I need to make a new circumstance or a new situation, so that way I can feel a certain way, or so that way I can experience something different, because that will, I feel like, prevent you from chasing or following a pathway that you know that might not have been for you. It was for you to feel it and see how it pertains to your life. And if not, in a way that's going to help you grow, let me find the new instant or the new opportunity in front of me. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I want to read what Andona put. There's such a big difference in mimicking someone's example versus using their example as a template or spark of inspiration to birth your own creations. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic chat, guys. Appreciate you. And
appreciate you,
and it is, man. And like you were saying, Troy, about those moments, that's so true. Like whether or not it was as favorable as it could have been, there was such joy and exhilaration. And an example I give is, I still remember my first 2 rap performances. And when they happened, I didn't even claim to be a rapper. I was just a producer that got on some songs. Like my first one was at Prairie View at when we had the PV song, and we got to open for like Trina and the Yin Yang Twins at Homecoming. Like everybody talked about, like how my friends talked about how stiff and stuff. But I didn't care, because it was like, wow, I can't believe I just did this. I can't believe this song got popular enough for this to happen. Like I felt great. And then another time was when me, you, and Rollo rapped together for the first time, I think, but it was some Ricky Dink club. Nobody was there.
Bougie, man, I remember.
Yeah. Nobody, when not the talent show, but just it was before that. Like,
no, I know it's at that club.
Yeah. And again, we had it on camera. I want to burn that video, but again, I was still grateful. I was still exhilarated. Exhilarated that I actually did it, because me being on stage was not in my mindset at all as a possibility or anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah, bro. Like, I'm with you, and I'm gonna take it to the birth of my kids, right? And the only reason why I bring this to you is because both instances were different, though they were new, right? Because it was a new kid. But I want to show you how, because I realized it was new, I wanted to do something different the second time, so that way it was memorable. Because if you ever had a kid, when you have the second kid, it's going to be different. I mean, you're gonna be like, oh, I didn't already been through this before. You know, okay, cool. I'm having a kid. You know, I love my kid, all this kind of stuff, right? But when TJ was born, my first kid, I was in the operating room and I looked a little bit, and then I was like, "Ooh, this is tough, man." Like, I don't know if I could do that, but I was still exhilarated in a way, to the point where it's etched in my mind, where it's one of those memories that I will never forget. So when Brody was born, I went into the hospital. I was in there, in the operating room. But I told myself, this time I'm going to stand up and I'm going to watch every bit of this entire way, right? And I was blown away even more than I was the first time, because it's not just about witnessing. It was just the way that I experienced it, right? Again, I watched TJ, but I watched Brody. And that just kind of just changed the entire dynamic of the entire viewing of the kid being born, that it etched it in my mind, and I felt the same exhilaration both ways. There was no difference. And I'm saying this in comparison to what people have told me before. When my second and my third kid came, it was just like clockwork, But to me, I didn't feel that, because I made it new for myself, because I remembered that it was new the first time. Go ahead, Jay.
And I love that you brought that up, because every moment is its own moment. Like, it's its own specialness, its own greatness. It has its own gifts. And a lot of times, again, like we don't look at it like that. We're like, oh, I've done this before, so let me just do it. And you don't put any thought into it, any energy, any emotion, and it becomes bland. But when you recognize that even the seemingly same circumstance can produce something completely different. Like it even going to the same restaurant and ordering the same thing can be a brand new experience, even though you've had that same meal on that same day for an entire month. Like that 5th week, it can be a new experience if you allow it to be, and if you actually look for it to be new, and you can be amazed. And we stop ourselves from really believing in that past and thinking that it's a fixed point, that it's stuck that way and that's how it's always going to be. It's not true at all.
And that makes me think of what I don't know if you remember when I did this, and the reason why is because, man, just I can hear it in my head saying the past gets you stuck. That I know that's not the truth in all instances, but that's how I feel, because I told you before, there was a time, and this happened during COVID too, because we was eating out all the time, right? So I made it a point that every single time I ordered something from a restaurant, I ordered something completely different. And the reason why I did that is because there was some point where I went to Sonic, right? And the thing that I ate all the time was a supersonic jalapeno cheeseburger. Every single time. And the reason why is because when I ate it the first time, I thought it was so good. And in my mind, I shut off everything else, saying that nothing could be better, because of my past experience. I've deemed this the best burger ever at Sonic. And so what I realized was, in 15 years, I ate the same burger. I never gave myself a chance to experience something new, because I've deemed this the end all be all to burgers, right? And so when I started to every single time order something new, I was like, dang, wow. So now I started having memorable moments every time I ate at Sonic or Waffle House or Whataburger or anywhere that I ate at, because I didn't allow my past and what I've deemed it as to be the end all be all to today. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you inspired me to do it. And I sometimes do it to this day. Like, and I've experienced both instances where I'm happy. The new thing that I got was very delicious, but I've also gotten where the new thing I got wasn't, but I was still grateful because it's never a question anymore. Cause I would always look at the menu like, I wonder, should I? And I would get stuck in indecision by not just making a choice and sticking to it. I'd be like, man, should I have gotten that this time, or should I go for what I always rock with? And once I actually went ahead and did it, it took that out of the equation. So now I don't have to be stuck in indecision any longer. And I say this to like, we shouldn't be afraid of any result on any path because it brings us that much closer to just us being us.
Look, bro, I'm still mad to this day because I wasted so much time in my life not eating pico and guacamole, bro. Like to this day, I'm still upset about it because I absolutely love guacamole today, and I absolutely love pico, bro. But something happened in my and I'm gonna tell you when it changed, just so you know. But and when I was younger, something happened where I ate some tomatoes or something one day, or I ate some guacamole, and it was just the grossest thing. So I imagine like all the way until I was in my 30s, bro. Well, anybody would ever ask me, no, I don't eat pico, I don't eat guacamole. That's nasty, right? And I remember I was working at, I think Chase at the time, and you and I decided to do some diet. You know what I'm saying? It was some kind of fast, some diet where we wouldn't eat.
I think. Yeah.
Daniel fast. We wouldn't eat meat or something for sure. And so at that point, I was running out of stuff. You don't eat tomatoes and you don't eat avocados. Like you're gonna run out of stuff to eat, right? You're gonna feel like it anyway. So I was just like, okay, well, let me try this again. I'm just gonna try it just because I might as well. I don't got nothing else to eat. And then when I ate it, I instantly was upset at myself. I was like, did I even eat this before? Was this even what I like? Did I tell myself I ate this and I just didn't eat it because it looked a certain way? Like, what kind of historical data do I have for me to allow something this good to go for 30 years and I don't even eat it? And that's how we do things. Like, we don't even always really know, right? And so to this day, I eat guacamole and pico all the time, but I just think about how many things, even that I haven't even recognized today. That's the reason why I'm glad we did this show, because there are things that are in our past that we continuously have. Shouts out to Loretta. We have continuously shunned ourselves from because of the way we've defined it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about the two of the ways to change the path to change the past. One is, like you said, so you were telling a story and you could have easily, like you could easily start telling yourself a new story. Like, I always ate guacamole. I've ate guacamole since birth. Like, you could very much tell yourself that story and it will begin to be true now. But another way, like you did it, is I think is the most serene way to do it, is be fully in the moment, unattached to anything.
Yeah.
Because when you're unattached to anything, the past is free to go its separate ways and be off by itself. And you can try new things. You can experience the newness, the now perfect present moment right now where all is possible. And you just like, I'm gonna try this, and you loved it.
So I want you to keep going, but I want to say something that's just a realization to me, and it's only because we're finna fast tomorrow, right? A part of the detachment was because we were fasting. You know what I'm saying? A part of the detachment is because we were fasting, bro. You know what I mean? And so, if I can't express anything about a fast or meditating on top of that, fasting is a way to detach yourself from a lot of things. It makes you go within yourself and see where you and what you are capable of. And so again, to your point, and again, I didn't realize until you said it was, and when I was talking, I said I ran out of stuff to do. And I felt like I had to open myself. I had to detach myself from what I thought was a reality and give myself an opportunity to see something different. So shouts out to the fast, man. Go ahead, Jay.
So check this out about the fast, which is cool. Like, and talk about being, detached from certain things and allowing new stuff to come. In the past, when we did the fast, I used a lot of willpower, and that's good sometimes, and sometimes it's not so good, because it's like if you don't have the willpower in that moment, it can be tough. You just end up curled up in a little ball, like I can't wait to eat. But something Angela shared, the one who was commenting before, she shared like a video of me of these people that fast, and she talked about how like you can just take deep breaths, and that could be fulfilling. Like there are breatharians, and when I watched the video, I don't know if one of the guys said this or I just kind of took it as that, but they said everything is everything we need is here. Like the food is just the middleman. Maybe it was Angela that said that. Like the food is just the middleman. And when I thought about that, I was like, yeah, what's in carbs? What's in protein? What's in fat? All of the things that we eat. And it has oxygen, it has hydrogen, it has carbon, all these things. Oxygen is in the air. We drink H2O when we're doing these water fasts. We breathe out carbon dioxide, which has that carbon in it, which means our body is very capable of producing it. And so I say this to say that the new mindset that I adapted is if you get too hungry, just take deep breaths. And when I did that last Monday, it worked. I was fine in those moments where I was like, I gotta eat. Took a deep breath. I was fine, and it was like, oh, this is nothing at all. And real quick, I just want to read what Loretta said. Fasting is an interruption of the patterns that may be unconscious, and Angela said, all is energy.
So shouts out to you, and you know me, you had this this oxygen and breathing conversation as well offline. But I would remind everybody in conjunction with what Jay is saying that, you know, generally what I've ever seen, even from myself, that whenever somebody is stressed, the thing that people tell you to do is take some deep breaths. Like whenever you're sleepy, the funniest thing, one day I was when I was actually working a job, a corporate job. We were in class and we had just got through coming from lunch. And generally, you know, when people have come from lunch and they're at work and they generally get tired. They generally, you know, tend to get dozy off, right? And so the instructor at that time, he said, I want everybody to, he said, everybody in here sleepy, right? Because y'all just came from lunch. He said, I want everybody to just stand up for a second. So we all stood up and he said, the reason why y'all are sleepy is because y'all are not getting enough oxygen to your brain. So let's take some deep breaths. So, you know, I just want to, you know, add that little piece because these are little, you know, jewels that kind of fly in from all over the place if you're just paying attention to you at the end of the day. But I 100% co-sign that. And I also co-sign what Loretta was saying about, the unconscious, how fasting helps you, break away from the patterns, interrupt the patterns, from that may be unconscious. I 100% agree, and I co-sign it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's called fasting. Like it's the fastest way to let go of old habits and patterns, but also the fastest way to heal. And really, when you think about it, healing is just the big letting go of all these false beliefs that you took on that even need healing. Like they don't need healing. You just need to let go from it and let it be on its own and not identify with that thing or that idea or that ailment or that perceived pain. And yeah, change your past. Like stay here in the now where all is new.
And what I would say, and so ultimately, what I think you just said is where we all need to end up. But I also know that we're not always all there. And so what I would tell you as a stepping stone, since we are talking about fasting, if there is something that you have not been able to see the exhilaration and how it's made your life form or can form into what you want it to be formed into today, I would challenge you to fast on that thought. So fast and meditate on that thought and allow yourself room to see the positivity in it. Allow yourself room to see the love in it. Like I said, there are many people that have grown up in single family households, just like me, right? And we all have a different perception of what that meant to us. I'm this way because of this. I challenge you to fast and meditate on who you are today and how that's made you strong, how that's made you able to continue going and not fall to depression, how that's able, like, I want you to fast and see the truth and how special and how perfect you are. Go ahead, Jay.
I love that too from another perspective of fasting on an idea, meaning refrain from thinking it. Like,
Man, I'm with you.
don't think that idea. Like I'm this way because of doesn't matter. Don't
Yeah,
finish that sentence. You are
I
this
love it.
way, and let that be enough. And meditate on that. Fast from thinking these past thoughts. Fast from going back and revisiting these key points that you think define your life, your lives, because when you fast from it, you realize it doesn't define you at all. If anything, it limits you to just being just that.
No, I love that too. And I would definitely say that there are a lot of ways that you can do it. Even, one thing that we talked about earlier in the conversation was an ant. We're just here to give you our thoughts, the way that we see it. And again, we're receiving what's been given to us as well. But you might know something that we don't know. And I encourage you to either share it on our page later, share it on this post later. But nonetheless, you can break away and be the creator that you already are. And you being a creator, you can create a new pathway and show us even another way outside of the two that we just shared for you to be able to fast and realize the truth of today. And the truth of today is that you are here and you are perfect. And Jay, what you got, bro?
Yeah, so because I know we winding down. If anyone wants to join us on the fast tomorrow, again, you can do all of Monday, just the entire Monday, or you can do 24 hours from when you last ate today. So keep keep in mind that time when you last ate, but it's water only. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but we suggest just only water, no additives, no drops or thing. But if you have medication you have to take, don't let us stop you. But I would encourage you to let go of the idea too that you would even need certain medications. Yeah, I'm excited about this fast, especially because I know it's one day and it's so easy, and then we have the 8th, 9th, and 10th coming up where that's 3 days or 72 hours. But I am excited about the new possibilities that exist.
And just a tip, if you do decide to do the fast with us tomorrow, when your stomach starts to growl, take some deep breaths. Just take some deep breaths. Take some time. Take some deep breaths. Meditate on how amazing you are and what you're capable of. And I'm gonna say this real quick. There have been plenty of times, bro, when you and I used to go out of town and we were selling CDs, and because we were so exhilarated by how great the moment was, we didn't ever even think about food. We had to stop ourselves to eat because we thought that's what we were supposed to do. So I just tell you to meditate on you, meditate on God, realize how special and how perfect you are, and know that it's not something that you cannot not get through. Jay, you can go ahead and take us out, brother.
Yeah. Shout out to Angela K. Clay, my aunt. Greetings and well wishes. And
Shout out.
Appreciate all y'all that rock with us on this day. Appreciate y'all that's gonna fast with us. And just if you find this helpful, hit that share button, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.